Onto this story now. A major UN climate report has warned of unprecedented consequences if governments and other stakeholders don't take extreme measures. For South Africa, there's a risk of exports being slapped with significant carbon taxes by the European Union, one of our biggest trading partners, because of Eskom's reliance on coal. Alex Malouf, Corporate Communications Director at Schneider Electric, joins me now to talk more about this. Many thanks for your time this evening, Alex. So today's report that was released about the state of climate change in the world has put some spotlight on the need for urgent change, especially in the provision of alternative power to businesses and households. So, your thoughts on that?
Well, simply put, the report states two things very, very clearly. First of all, climate change is real and it's primarily a result of human activity. So that's one. That puts that argument to bed, so to speak. The second big finding was we are struggling to keep temperatures under 1.5 degrees Celsius. And it's most likely that temperatures are going to rise above that within the coming 20 years. So we are running out of time on the issue of climate change. And we've seen the impact it can have around the world. South Africa has seen it as well. Everybody remembers what happened in Cape Town in terms of drought, what it did to the water table. So we've got to take action very quickly to push for more renewables, more decarbonization, and more essentially energy efficiency. We've got to be much better at using what we have so we use less carbon-based resources.
Right. When you speak about energy efficiency in South Africa, what is the state of readiness when it comes to dealing with issues around a carbon tax and ensuring that businesses are not significantly impacted by the tax should be initiated? I mentioned in my intro that one of our biggest trading partners, the EU, would be slapping higher costs on exports from South Africa because of businesses' reliance on Eskom.
We've got to think about a couple of things, first of all. So when you look at South Africa, every country's got to play its part in terms of decarbonization, the fight against climate change. South Africa, though, has a long way to go. Last year, 86% of the country's electricity was generated from coal, and that is the highest of all of the G20 nations. Now, when looking at carbon taxes, we have a number of potential carbon taxes coming in. We have the EU talking about legislation, which they actually passed in the Parliament last month. We also have the US discussing this as well. So it's two biggest economy blocks in the world. And then also as well, we have the carbon tax, which is going to be coming in South Africa in 2023. So you've got all of these carbon taxes coming in, and really the question we've got to ask is, what do utility providers do, the likes of Eskom, what the businesses also do? And we've got to move really quickly on these issues. And if you look at the carbon tax, for example, in South Africa, it was passed in 2019, and it's been discussed for 10 years. So we've had a long time to look at these issues. But the question is, are we ready for the change? Is South Africa ready to embrace renewables? Is it looking to increase? There's a lot of political will, but the issue is, how fast are we going to move on the ground? If you think about it today, we have one of the world's biggest coal power plants, which is going to come online very soon, Malouf. It's going to be pushing out over 32 million tons of carbon emissions, carbon dioxide equivalent, every single year, and that is going to cost Eskom a lot of money. So we've got to move much quicker in terms of pushing for renewables, both for utilities and also businesses as well. So we've got to help businesses look at the options. We've got to say, how do we invest in this? How do we finance it? We've got to make it easier for them in terms of regulations. And even when carbon taxes come in, we've also got to help companies work out what their carbon emissions are as of today. And that's not a simple process, working out what your carbon emissions are. But again, we've got to find ways to do this, and we've got to push it through as quickly as possible, because the alternatives are much, much higher costs. The other benefit is obvious. Renewables are much, much cheaper than coal-produced energy. So, you're actually switching And you've got two benefits. You become more efficient as a company in terms of your production. You're paying fewer taxes. And also, as well, the energy you're paying for is also at a lower cost.
Right, Alex, you've mentioned the regulation part, which that would be primarily put on government to establish. But really, is there anything more that government can play in minimizing those dire implications that we've spoken about? You know, the policies that have been announced by government in recent weeks, are they enough? And really, is there a confidence from other stakeholders, and that being companies and the like, that there is a conducive a playing ground for everybody to be able to create alternative energy with the sufficient support of government?
Look, the good news is there is the political will and desire to make this issue one of green, sustainable energy. Last year, the president set up a presidential task force to look at what could be done in terms of power generation and also energy debts, both of which are a huge issue today in South Africa. We see a number of big possible recommendations coming out of that. You know, one possible option would be to actually deregulate energy distribution. Others would be looking at creating possibly an independent company to manage the national grid. And both are going to help encourage more investment into the country, especially in renewables. You know, we have banks, we have other financial lenders looking to invest in green, and they want to do this in South Africa as well. So the will is there. The desire to put money in is there. And the one thing I'd say as well is, you know, if you look at South Africa, it has the potential resources. It's a beautiful country, a lot of sunshine, a lot of wind as well. So the issue is not the possibility or the ability. What we've got to do is we've got to work with businesses, we've got to work with Eskom to make sure that there is the opportunity for companies to come in and basically set up renewables for their own operations, which again is going to make them much more energy efficient, which is going to cut down their costs and mean, you know, they don't face these carbon taxes, which is the most important thing for many businesses today.
Right, very interesting insights there, Alex. Malouf, thanks for those insights, and he's the Corporate Communications Director of eNCA at Schneider Electric.